Welcome to the Kickin It with Daree show. I'm your host, Daree Allen Nieves, and this podcast is available both audio and video because it's a special new series that I'm launching called the ColorVO Collective. And ColorVO stands for ColorVO, as in voiceover, colorful voice actors that I have met along my brief journey in voiceover. So I am very, very excited to have my first guest, Damon Alums, and it happens to be his birthday. So happy birthday and welcome to the podcast, Damon.
Hello. Welcome to you again.
I won't ask how old you are, okay? I won't ask.
I got more white hairs than a little bit, but I keep them all short, so that way nobody can tell. I'm in stealth mode, but I'm celebrating my birthday anyway.
Right. And it's a weird year for any of us to celebrate birthdays. Mine isn't coming up until next month, but I know some people are like, oh my gosh, this is the worst birthday. Like, I just think it's all about your perspective. You know, it's not about, you know, maybe you wanted to travel and you wanted to do certain things for your birthday. And I get that part, obviously. All of us have had our plans kind of jacked, but, you know, it's a blessing.
Exactly. Well, I'm mostly a homebody anyway, so ambitious plans like that weren't on my radar anyway. So nice meal, folks who love me in the immediate vicinity, all good. I'm this is gonna be a great birthday.
I hear that. Now, the way we met, one of the things actually that made me notice you was online, of course. Social media is what brings everybody together, right? Nobody meets in person anymore, ever. So we are in a couple of Facebook groups together, but there's one in particular where we're both pretty active, and also on Twitter too. But one of the things that drew me to you, made me notice you and everything, was just the way that you write. Like, your personality comes in your writing. And of course, I'm not talking about blogs and articles and things like that. I'm talking about just like the little short social media posts that we all do. It's just like, who is this person? And it's really, you're funny, you're entertaining, your personality comes through with it. I'm like, I have got to meet this person. So I guess sometime earlier this year, we exchanged numbers and we had a conversation and everything, but we had already been interacting here and there throughout on social media. It wasn't just like, oh, he's funny, let me talk to him. You know what I mean? So it's cool to be able to get to see you and to get to know you this way, which is what we all pretty much have to do now that we're isolated. But we're on different ends of the US. You're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. So that was the only way it was gonna happen. I do recall during that conversation that when we spoke, that I invited myself to your house the next time you have a barbecue or something, that, you know,
Yeah.
when the Rona's over. Remember that?
Absolutely. Yeah. The social media sphere is somewhere where I can actually flex my muscles. Like I said about the birthday, I'm real mellow. I keep myself to myself. And in social exchanges, barbershop or birthday party, the loud folks are the ones that get all the attention. Me, I'm a watcher and a listener. And in one-on-one conversation, I'll knock your socks off. But that usually doesn't come up in loud venues. But in social media, I can pick my spots and display the thought gems that I do. This is how I see the world. Boom. I've been thinking about it a while. Here you go. And that tends to shock folks, and it sounds like it shocked you in a good way. So yeah, I'm just being me. Yeah, that first time that we talked, I remember I was on my way to the grocery store for the supplies for an afternoon barbecue. Me and my son were getting the ribs, and yeah, you'd say like, yep, next time you cook, I'm coming. Yeah, we've grown since then. Broken in, done a couple briskets, and have only gotten better since then. So yeah, you come on through.
Oh man,
Post
ribs,
COVID,
brisket, that's where I'm at. You ain't said nothing but a word. I am not a vegan, okay? No offense to those who are, but when you talk about meat, okay, like, yes, I'm gonna have to get that address. So we're gonna talk about cooking a little bit more later as well. But my first real question for you, Damon, is, in your own words, tell us about yourself. You've given me some things about you. You know, I know you're a native Californian, you're a dedicated family man, a burgeoning voice talent. You called yourself equal parts warmth and gravel, but you're doing your thing. You're doing your thing with audiobooks and video games. So tell us about you.
Oh, let's see. Well, you hit most of the main adjectives that I would use in a quick blurb about myself. I got three boys, ages 2, 8, and 14. So I got a whole bunch of male drama at the house. Um, yeah, growing in the industry and trying to fumble my way toward proficiency, just like we all are. Man, a man of few words, do more thinking and listening than uh, uh, outright bursts of creative material. I'm a ruminant thinker. You know what? That's it. I have to put the thoughts in the rock tumbler, let them turn around a little bit, and then I present you with something like, I have thought about this very hard. Would you care to share? Yeah, always been bookish, full on nerd. Celebrating my birthday with a Gotchaman t-shirt, one of my favorite features from my youth. So even though I'm putting one more candle on the cake, still celebrating with the pieces of my youth that made me smile. And that's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I know something about being a nerd too, or blurred as they call it now. So, but before we get to that, let's talk about voiceover and bring that in a little bit. So you do voiceovers part-time, right?
I'm working my way toward full-time, but yes, I'm part-timer and I work at a high school special ed during the day.
Okay. And see, the reason why I want to mention that, I am part-time as well. Some people kind of that don't do voiceovers, they look at me or they hear some of my work, or maybe they're on my YouTube channel hearing me talk about different things and they're like, oh my gosh, she is good. But I'm part-time too. Like everyone has to start somewhere. I just wanted to mention that, not to say, okay, well, you're only part-time, but no, everyone has to start somewhere. There are some people that maybe they get let go or something like that. And they're like, look, I just got to make this work. But there's no shame in doing that, doing the voiceover, if that's what you want to do, along with something else. And you can continue to, your aim is to be full-time, as is mine, but it is fine, whatever you want to do. Like the world that we're in now, I think one thing that we've learned out of many this year is that you don't have to rely on a job, and sometimes you can't rely on a job. So it's good to be able to start to dibble and dabble in those things that you've been interested in, maybe things that you've put off, or at least start learning about them. And I'm hoping that this podcast will be one way that people can do that. So that's my only reason for asking that. And you work at a high school. I work for, I work in corporate America, and I have a full-time job with them, and I do this on the side. And one day I'm hoping that that will shift. So we all have our own story. Now getting back to the whole nerd blurred thing, I've got a spot on my website, on my about page, where I talk about the fact that, when I was a kid, I've been wearing glasses since I was 8 years old, and I've been smart since I was however old, and people want to copy, right? People want to copy off my paper, and they want to, talk about the way that I speak. Oh, you sound so proper and you enunciate your words. You sound white and you're this and you're that. Trying to make these things seem negative. And obviously as a kid, that got to me. Obviously I didn't carry it with me forever. I was able to, start speaking and writing and doing other things with my voice that sounds white. So the joke is on those folks that tried to put me down. Have you ever experienced something in your life where maybe not necessarily exactly like me, but being a so-called nerd or blurred was something that was used against you, or maybe someone tried to make you feel a way because maybe there weren't really any other Black boys or Black men that were doing the things that you were interested in doing?
Yeah. There have been a handful of instances where my natural disposition for bucking the norm has, I don't know what the term is. Well, just like a pot that you touch too hot and you let. That's been my experience with the negative reaction to the topics and genres that spark my wires. Sometimes I'll encounter somebody like, "Oh, that's something. What? You know what? That pot was too hot. Okay, I'm not touching that again." I just use it as a barometer of folks that I choose to spend my energy with. Time is too short, and uh, as a more self-contained type of person, um, I don't need to talk to folks for days. Um, not to disrespect the folks who have lost family members or have had their health affected by the quarantine. And yeah, let me put that out there and make that plain, because I mean, COVID-19 has turned the world upside down. But for a private person like myself, it's been a godsend. I get to stay home. I work at the school, which is doing distance learning, and I am surrounded by my books. I've got my crates, my long boxes of comics. I've got my drawing table. I've got a full pantry. Bye. And that carries on into prospective folks that on the street are like, I am more comfortable wandering the warehouse of my mind. And I know that's where my home is. So if you don't care to walk the path with me, gotcha. No disrespect, but I'm taking my energy elsewhere. Um, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's a minor shock, but nothing to stop my momentum. There have been ladies who choose not to associate with this handsome man with the gravelly voice because they don't understand that I would rather watch The Lord of the Rings than Power. Absolutely not on my radar. And that's okay. That's okay. You enjoy your show, and I'm gonna be wandering the spaceways with the laser swords and riding a dragon. And that works out. It all works out, because that's life. That's life.
I think that that creativity must, you know, be leveraged. That must be great leverage for you as you are doing your character work with, you know, animation, right?
Yeah, I got a broad frame of reference. Everybody knows the standard archetypes: the old wizard with the big beard and the peak hat. But to have variations on that, like, oh, this is the serious Gandalf wizard, or this is the kooky Fizban the Fabulous. It's almost the same guy, but to be able to pull those different flavors of the same archetype gives me a little bit more breadth to play around with. So having that broad base of nerd lore with character work, wouldn't trade it for the world.
And see, that's something that I know very little about. I mean, for what I do know, you know, I try to make it work for me, but that is not in my wheelhouse. The character voices and things like that. I was asked to be a character, a doctor. I'm always a doctor on a podcast, and it was like a zany doctor. It wasn't just like, you know, with the bedside manner. It was like really kind of zany and wacky, and I really wasn't into it and really acting and really like this, like the way I should have been. I had to do quite a few takes, and it wasn't a directed session. So it takes a skill. You have to kind of either be in that world or really get into it and let yourself be really loose. I'm not like a known for being really super loose and creative in that manner. So, you know, my hats off to you and many of you in the Twitter community who do animation different types of animation voices. And you know, there's not a lot of representation for us as people of color on the animation side, in other genres too, but particularly in the animation side. And what we've been seeing, especially since the whole thing with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and everyone this year, is that on the entertainment side and the acting side, that there have been many celebrities that have come out and said, listen, you know, I'm not Black or I'm mixed or whatever, and I'm voicing this Black character, and maybe I shouldn't be, because there's a whole bunch of Black and Hispanic and, you know, other people of color who could do this role and be more authentic than I can. Now that is a big debate, you know, in voiceover, of course. It continues to be a big debate, right? How do you feel about that whole thing with, you know, voiceover and animation and representation and people taking roles that, you know, oh, they say, well, it's just voiceover. Why does it matter if I'm Black or white? It's just voiceover.
I'm all for it. And this is me being perfectly candid. The voiceover community is an industry full of very open, welcoming folks. That much is a fact. The path that I've walked has been paved by good-natured folks who said, "Don't do that, do this," or let me invite you to this session where we are learning this in order to help you up with your game." I get that. On the for real side of it, it is an industry that is founded by mostly white folks, and that folks are going to go with who they're most familiar with, which has resulted in the status quo of white folks who are familiar to the casting directors who are making the shows, leading us to the present day with the backlash. To respond simply, I'm all for the new trend of having somebody with the same ethnic background playing a human-like character of that same background. To be an elf, open season, everybody go for it. To be a dragon or a robot or an alien critter from Planet X, everybody goes for that. But if it's going to be a Filipino family type sitcom, then it's time for my Pinoy cousins to get put on. There would be an effective display of nuance that would educate folks who aren't accustomed to it, and a familiarity with folks with their feet in that culture. To use another example, Black men at the barbershop. There's a certain vibe, an interaction, a certain noise level of fussing. the term that I would use. They're fussing. That is something that I grew up with. That's something I'm familiar with. As a quiet guy, I don't do it much, but in a performance, I can have a frame of reference that would lend an authenticity to a barbershop level interaction, that a white actor would either have to have this walk the same cultural path I have, which is possible. It is possible, but it ain't likely. So I say, for works and performances based in a realistic culture, get folks from that culture in order to increase visibility and help voice actors of color pay their bills with the industry that they love so much. That just makes sense to me. Although there are folks who are fiercely defending the status quo. It
Yes,
is
they
what it
are.
is.
Yes, they definitely are. And everyone has the right to their own opinion. But if you have not been on the receiving end of a disadvantaged or disenfranchised culture or misappropriated culture, then you don't have really the full um, gamut of feeling and experience to really be able to fully comment on such things. So seek to understand, not necessarily just to be heard, but also to understand is what I would say on that. Um, I just threw out that question because it just rose up in my spirit. I hadn't even planned to ask you that. I just was like, listen, while we're talking
I
about
agree with
this.
you. It would be nice. It certainly hasn't been tried. When it becomes the norm, America will be one step closer to its perceived reputation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've been doing voiceovers now for a few years, but I actually sat on this idea for over 10 years. 10 years of thinking about it, wondering, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know how to break in. What do? I don't know anybody that does that. All these different doubts and doing Google searches and coming up with way too much information and not knowing where to start. So it's time for me to pay it forward, and I thought I would help others who keep asking me and DMing me, how do I get started? If you want to share your voice with the world and you're interested in starting a voiceover career or just trying to understand what it takes to get started, I can help you. I created a free resource guide that has links to courses, training, blogs, Facebook groups, and tons of things that'll give you good information to get started and not overwhelm you. These are resources that I've curated myself, and they've served me well as I've started on this journey. Want yours? Sign up and get yours free at bit.ly/Daree voiceover resource. bit.ly/Daree voiceover resource. If you already know this is something you want to do, you can just go straight to the e-course at bit.ly/vocality-e-course.
Yes. Yes, it is hotly that is something that is hotly debated on social media. I see it on Facebook and Twitter as do you. And so, we're both very active on Twitter, and like I run a monthly Twitter chat. I decided to start it like last year because I felt like there were all these Twitter chats for other industries, marketing and educators and IT, tech, all these other industries, social media marketing, everything you could think of except voiceover. And I'm like, well, we're always talking about VO Life, so let's have a chat about VO Life. So I started VOLifeChat. We hold it every third Thursday on Twitter, but I'm always in there throughout the month, seeing your tweets, seeing everyone discussing things, many of whom are in the animation world, the video game world, do character voices, and I don't, but I still like networking with you all. And you don't want to tell people, when you tell people you do voiceover, they're like, oh, wow, what is that? Or that's cool. So I'm like, let's start something for us. So last year I started VOLifeChat. We do it every third Thursday of the month. I think you're there every month. So thank you for supporting and everybody that comes through. It's open to anyone that's interested in voiceover. And one of the things that I have enjoyed recently from you, in addition to your funny post, like I said in the beginning, is this recent thread that you did. It was very elaborate. I know you crafted this thing just the way that you craft your meats. You were basically comparing voiceover to brisket. And I mean, I think I read like the first few and the last few. There were a whole bunch. I'm like, I got a link to it in the show notes and really go through it step by step. So tell us about this thread and how you came up with this analogy.
Yeah, brisket is my son's favorite cut of meat, and he made an academic goal that was worth celebrating. So I pulled out this big slab of cow and set about cooking for a family barbecue. Celebrate my son. Like, man, you did it. You said it. You got it. Excellent. Let's eat. And I was thinking about the parallels in the crazy way that my brain makes connection. And the way that things were matching up was uncanny, and decided to record it for posterity. Basically, the voiceover industry is brisket. Thinking about it straight up, the most tender bits of the cow come from the center of the spine. And the farther away you move from that, the tougher the meat is, and the more you have to know about how to cook it in order to get it to turn out right. Brisket is basically the same muscles that you use for push-ups. That gets a lot of work. Even if you're not like a gym rat, that's like a main muscle. If you move your arms, then it gets a lot of work. So you got to cook it very, very, very carefully. But when you do it, it's absolutely amazing. And voiceover is a very, very tough industry. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up getting your feelings hurt, putting out bad product, and burning yourself out if you don't know the right way to go about it. So being that voiceover is so big, you have to trim down your focus. Being that a cut of brisket is covered in extra fat that won't cook out right, you have to trim that. Lots of folks get crazy about the spices they put on brisket, but all you need is salt and pepper. Just like you can get crazy about how you attack the voiceover world, but all you need is gratitude and hard work. That's the salt and pepper of it. The smoke wood that you use on your fire can influence the end result in lots and lots of delightful ways. I like post oak myself. But the smoke wood for the voiceover industry are the friends that you gain along the way. I would include you in that number, Mr. Ray. So you're part of what I call my smoke wood squad. Let's see. At a certain point of the cook, the brisket can't take on any more flavor. So this is a debatable step. You take it inside, wrap it up in paper with a little bit of soup, and let it braise to cook the rest of the way. Just like in a voiceover career, when you have reached that plateau, you just get a level of self-maintenance where you attend your meetings and you polish your business plan and so on. And after that, that's where you get to be a full-time VO with a solid resume that is eating regular and paying your bills. As far as brisket goes, when you reach the end of the line, you are a full-time VO, paying bills and with a solid resume. And for a brisket, that's when you pull it off, take a slab off, get yourself some collards and some macaroni and cheese and eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh, you're making me hungry. And right now where I live, it is dinner time. It's actually like after 6 p.m. where I live. So I'm like, okay, you're making me hungry. We're almost done with the show here. I got 2 more questions for you. My closing questions that I ask all my guests. And the first one is, how do you define success?
Success would be being able to make the moves that I would like to make with wisdom, the only question as to whether or not to do it. Yeah. Been in places where I've had enough money, but to have the freedom to decide, I want to do this. Would it be wise to do that? No. Oh, you know what? You're right. I won't do that. To let wisdom be the only constraint on the moves that you make. That is success. And that goes beyond financial gain and clout chasing.
Yes, wisdom is very important. And a lot of times people just don't even consider, tomorrow. They're just like, oh yeah. And everything is impulse. Everything is just like, do what feels good or what makes sense. I even equate that in the voiceover world to, for me personally, my ethics and what I feel is integrity, is not voicing things that I don't believe in. We are in the middle of like the end of the political climate here. We're recording in October of 2020. And some people are like, hey, I don't care who it is. If they want to pay me for a political voiceover, fine. I don't care what side it is. I don't care what they're talking about. I don't care what the candidate did. For me, it goes a little deeper than that. And with similar other types of commercials and projects, if it doesn't fit my values and what I believe is right or wrong, if there is a right or wrong with it, then I won't do it. But there are people that will do anything for money. And some of that is out of need and necessity to eat, but some of it isn't, Damon. Some people are not in survival mode.
Yeah.
They're just greedy. They just have no scruples. I said it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. And there are folks who don't have those firmly set boundaries. And I prefer to draw those boundaries in order to keep myself upright. Mom was big in the church, while I am not, what I got from that was you got to carry yourself a certain way. And to not do that is another indicator of someone who's not really worth that investment of energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gotta guard who you share your circle with. Those types of folks, they are free to do as they choose. More power to them. I'm taking my energy elsewhere.
And finally, that would be a wonderful mic drop, but I still have one more question. And that is, what advice would you give to your younger self? I know you have 3 little younger selves right now, but if you were actually talking to a younger Damon, whether that's, in the past year since your last birthday or 20, 30 years ago, what would you say to him?
Ooh. Make the move as if nobody's watching, because they're not watching and it's your move to make. Yeah.
So tell everyone where they can find you and follow you and all of these funny and wonderful and insightful posts that you do and your voiceover and everything about you. Just tell them all of it.
All right. Well, okay. Info dump. Oh, not a customer. A recent credit, I can be heard as the voice of the Rona. I am the voice of COVID-19. I got to flex my bad guy voice for the California Department of Public Health. So, yeah, wear your masks or I'ma find you.
Yes, please wear your mask.
So, yeah. Got the Rona. Got on to iHeartRadio. If you listen close, you might be able to hear somebody familiar there. But as far as the socials, I do my posting about good food and random thought nuggets that I polished on Twitter as Urban Legend VO. On the visual side, I post my creative side and pictures of myself and my boys on Instagram. Once again, Urban Legend VO. And break. That's the main 2, yeah?
Yeah, your website is Urban Legend Voiceover. Hello, he is the Urban Legend.
Hey.
Okay. Yes. I love it. And I got to second you on that iHeart. I'm also on that roster and, it's great. They love us. But I'm not legendary like you. You are legendary.
Hey, gotta live it big as life. Live it big. Nobody else is watching.
Yeah. It has been so much fun seeing you again and talking with you. We did the VOLifeChat that I mentioned last night, and anyone that is interested in that, once you go ahead and follow Damon, then go ahead and follow me so you can be a part of that chat next month. I always post highlights of each month. Twitter actually had quite a snafu last night, and there were a lot of people that really couldn't participate. But the past year of chats is available on my website, DareeVoiceover.com. Again, find Damon at UrbanLegendVoiceover.com, on Twitter and Instagram as UrbanLegendVO. Thank you so much, my friend, my brother in VO. Thank you so much. You popped off this ColorVO series.
Thank you for the invite. It's been a blast.
But it's all good. Nobody can
hold us back. A good way to celebrate my birthday.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Once again,
you got that right.
I'm just gonna guess at how old you are. It don't matter. You know what I mean? It's VO. It don't matter how old you are. And that's one of the things that I love about it. I don't know about you, but you could be 85, and if you're breathing and you can speak, you can do whatever. And nobody necessarily knows that you're 85. Doesn't matter.
A great industry, high degree of difficulty, but plenty of good people, yourself included, that are willing to share what they have done to survive in order to help you on your way.
And with that, that really is like that's the last gem. There's so many gems. I'm blind now. I got to take these off, and then I got to go fix me some brisket. I'm hungry now, and all the things. So again, thank you once for the third or fifth time, whatever it is. Thank you, Damon, and I will see you online. Thanks for kicking it with us, everybody.
Very good. I hope so. Yes, most definitely. All right.